Welcome to Mesa's place. Last time we heard about the Dutchman's lost gold mine hidden somewhere in the twisting, turning canyons of the Superstition Mountains. The ranger warned us to always stay on the path when in the park. Mickey Ricky said we would be rich with treasure if we were brave enough to search for it. And by sundown at the end of the week, we had our packs ready to go. Our parents weren't far. My dad and a couple other families set up base camp at the first water trailhead, close enough to the mountains that we could ride in, but safe enough for them to keep watch in case anything happened. That first night we all stayed together. Fires, food, and laughter. Nobody was scared. Yet. After dinner, we could see Gideon's dad pulling out his map by the fire. His voice always boomed like he was on stage. We called him Trumpet, half because that was his last name, but also half because of how loud he could get. And sure enough, he told the Dutchman's tale like it was a true story. Gold hidden in the superstitions. A ghost guarding the mine. Every fall the autumn shadow points the way, but only the worthy will ever find it. Some of us ate it up. Gideon especially, who was finishing his dad's sentences like he knew the story just as well as the back of his hand. I just stared at the mountains. Even in the firelight, they were looking darker than they should have. The next morning, we split off. Parents stayed at base camp while 14 of us set out on our own journey. Me, Good Cat, Ollie, and Gideon, Mickey, Ricky, and Mac. Plus, there was Sheila, Walter, Peter, Max, Jimmy, Gilbert, and the twins, Marcus and Aloria. We rode along the dirt track away from camp in a loose pack, bikes rattling in a giant V shape. But the deeper we went, the rougher it got. And before long, we had to stash the bikes and keep going on foot because it was getting so vertical. By midday, we were tired and hungry. Mickey Ricky spotted a flat patch near a rocky overhang and called it the perfect spot. Come on, this has got to be camp. Nice shade, good ground. Why keep going when we could start searching sooner? Some of us dropped our packs, but Walter, one of the scouts, was shaking his head. Hold up. Too many rocks, too many holes. We might not want to pitch camp here. Oh, come on, you just don't want me to be right. That's when Jimmy froze. His eyes locked on the dirt, mouth open but no words. What's the matter, Jimmy? Cat got your tongue? Hey! One rattle, then another, and another. We all stopped scanning the rocks because we knew what that sound meant. Shapes were shifting in the dirt. We weren't standing near just one snake. We were standing inside a snake den. Don't run, just back up slowly. 5, 6, maybe more. The nearest one not 6 feet away. Nobody argued with Ollie. We backed up slowly until the rattles thinned out behind us. Mickey didn't say another word. Farther down the trail, the canyon opened into a flat clearing. No rocks stacked like hiding places, with no holes and no tall grass. The ground was clean and dry, with a mesquite tree leaning just enough to give some shade. The scouts nodded first. This was where we would set up our camp. We worked like we had done it before. Tents stacked in a half circle. Canteens were lined up in the shade. Some began to gather and stack wood for a fire. Walter and Marcus stayed behind to guard the camp, which really meant sorting the food and trying to cook without burning it. It felt steady, like a little town that we had built out of nothing. Once the tents were up, a group of us pushed farther down the trail, trying to guess where the autumn shadow would fall. Before long, the arguments started. Marcus swore it was north. Mickey barked orders west. Walter scratched lines in the dirt with sticks. Max was muttering that we were wasting the daylight. Then Aloria pointed out the obvious. We were standing on the canyon floor. What if the shadow could only be seen from above, not down here where the cliffs swallowed the sky? Nobody seemed to agree, and the sun didn't wait. It was already turning red before we were done arguing, and we quickly realized we should head back before we lost the light. When we got back to camp, we circled the fire, trying to make it just another camp out. But Gideon couldn't resist. He recited his dad's Dutchman rhyme like a spell. When lantern light glows red and gold, it marks the Dutchman's trail of old.
But shadows fall and pathways twist. The gold remains where none persist.
He said it once, then again louder. Walter was laughing to cover his nerves. Aloria whispered it back. Ollie begged him to stop, but the words clung to the night, heavier each time it was repeated. That's when we saw it. A faint glow on the horizon. Golden, flickering, gone before we could agree what it was. The lantern?
Or another camper?
Nobody agreed on what to do. Some were dead set on following the light. Others swore that it was foolhardy and too dangerous. There were snakes, rocks, worse in the dark. But the glow pulled at us. Enough kids wanted to chase it that the rest had no choice but to come along. Someone had to keep them from getting into real trouble. And trouble had a name. Mickey Ricky. He talked the loudest, walked the fastest, but he had no idea how to hike in the desert after dark. Not really. And we all knew it. Walter told us to stay on the trail, reminding us that's what the ranger said. Yeah, well, the ranger's not here. Are you coming or are you scared?
Scared is smart.
The split was made. Some stayed behind at the fire. The rest of us followed Mickey into the dark. Good Cat started dropping stones like breadcrumbs, but the trail twisted too fast. Left, then right, and another turn. He couldn't keep pace with Mickey's long strides and gave up. I tried reassuring him that it still might come in handy. Then, the light was gone, and that's when the desert showed us its own rules. Dust filled the canyon. The air shook with sound, growling or maybe just the wind. Our trail disappeared under sand. Kids shouted over each other. Walter yelled to keep going. Jimmy pulled back with Gilbert, bolting back to camp in the dark. Then we saw them. Only now there were 2 lanterns glowing in the swirling dust. Somehow, in our lost confusion, we knew that meant we were close, but the storm twisted everything. Suddenly, the lanterns rose, tilted, and turned red. Shadows stretched into the shape of a face, glaring red eyes above a wide-open mouth. Mac yelled, "It's gonna eat us!" As the others began to run, I remained frozen in place, but after a few seconds began to see through the storm. The lanterns weren't eyes. They hung on either side of a mine entrance, hidden but very real. That's when Good Cat grabbed my arm. "Not tonight!" Stumbling back in what we hoped was the direction of our camp, making all of the opposite turns that we could remember, we finally hit the trail, and just like that, the storm stopped. Right behind us, the canyon still boiled with dust, but on the path, the air was calm, like an invisible wall between chaos and safety. Some swore the mountains were warning us. I said it was just the weather, but honestly, I wasn't sure which was scarier. By morning, the group had splintered. Mickey and Mac were already gone. Walter, Peter, Max, and Jimmy were still arguing whether it was eyes, shadows, or nothing at all. Me and Good Cat talked about what we really saw. It was a mine entrance. I know it.
I saw it too. But last night wasn't right. That wasn't for us. Not yet. That's like going up against Ganondorf without the Master Sword, man.
You know, one thing still gets me. If they were just old lanterns, why were the fires still burning? That's the end of part 2 of the Dutchman's Lost Gold Mine. Maybe the mountains keep their secrets. Or maybe they're just waiting for us to listen. But one thing is for sure, some of us are going back. And what we find there, well, you'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, you're welcome here at Mesa's Place anytime.